Everybody, once again, I'm back on the name determined, name undetermined. If the name were determined, we'd have one. Yeah, so I'm back to do a preview episode, like I promised to do last week and promised to do this week, and almost didn't have a chance to do. So we do have to go a little bit rapid fire, but there are just some games that we have to talk about. I'm gonna go rapid fire with the other ones I wanted to highlight, but then we're gonna really kind of dive into the main big ones. First off, I have down in my notes, I wanted to ask the question: are the matchups between Clemson and NC State and LSU and UCLA still appealing matchups? And honestly, my answer is no. I don't see a route for either NC State or UCLA to hang in either of those games. Uh, I kind of think those teams are gonna the favorites are gonna lean early, especially Clemson, which is funny. If you were to go back and listen just a few weeks ago, I actually said don't hit the dump button on Clemson, and everyone did, and now they've been fairly great the last couple weeks, and people are kind of catching back up and realizing that maybe, just maybe, they happen to play Georgia in week one, which is not a recipe for good things to happen, even with good teams. Take a look at Oregon a couple years ago. That's a prime example of a team that looked god awful against Georgia and then went on to do pretty good things in the regular season. So, yeah, give me Clemson to win and cover. Give me LSU to win and cover. Just really quick. Georgia Tech and Louisville, I think, is a really underrated type of game. I could see this one maybe getting out of hand early, actually in the favor of Louisville, because I feel like there's a lot of momentum and media steam behind Georgia Tech right now after the big win against FSU and then the close loss against Syracuse. Uh, I like them as a team. I think Louisville is probably just a little bit better. So again, I would take Louisville in that game. Now I'm going to finally dive into one of the games I really want to talk about, which is USC and Michigan, because no matter what the outcome is, no matter by how much the outcome is, something unprecedented is going to happen, right? We're either going to see Michigan, before the month of September is over, lose twice at home to big opponents, right? Like that's a huge deal and would completely derail their season. Or we're going to see a Michigan team that honestly has looked not great beat a USC team that looks a lot better than we speculated. So a lot of the USC projections obviously come from beating LSU and then the very strong performance against Utah State, specifically defensively, right? Um, I think some people maybe so like after week one, I felt like there was a very strong. Oh my God, this this USC defense is incredible, right? And then you kind of go off of that a bit. Okay, well, hold on, let's not jump the shark here. And then they obviously they embarrassed Utah State as they should, but again, USC hasn't always done what they should before Dan Tomlin got there. So what is this defense, right? I think they're really good. I don't necessarily think they're as good as maybe the LSU game would have us think. I think Michigan is probably going to test them along the lines of scrimmage a little more, just simply because Michigan has to run the ball. They are going to be starting Alex Orji this week, and quite frankly, that is the only way they have a shot in hell at moving the ball anyway. They will not have a passing game regardless, right? And they haven't looked strong on the offensive line. They haven't, but they have to. This is a game where Michigan has to have it. Against Texas, it's a big game you really want to win. And you probably say in your team meetings, in the pregame speech, you got to have this one. In a 12-team playoff format, you don't, especially in a non-conference game. But in a conference game, against USC in the middle of September when you've already got a loss and you've already got a couple really ugly wins against what should be lesser opponents, yeah, you need this one. Sure, if Michigan loses, they're still technically in contention for everything they want. But let's be real here. If they lose this, no, they're not. They just are, especially now with Oregon getting rolling, which again, kind of saw that one coming from a mile away. Uh, it was as long as their line of scrimmage started to be able to lean on people, they would be fine. Guess what? They at least did it to Oregon State. We're going to find out this week if they can parlay that forward. But Michigan has to win this, or else they have no shot in hell at the Big Ten or probably the playoffs, which is not at all in line with what I thought going into the year. I thought they would still be decent. I had them in my preseason playoff predictions. So you talk a lot about wounded animal mode, right? And Michigan is in that. And honestly, USC has always profiled as a team that is susceptible to a physical team, especially in wounded animal mode, right? I still think they're going to win. I think USC is going to go on the road and beat Michigan. Simply, like, look, Miller Moss, good. Offense, good. And it's versatile. And I think that is why they'll win. Especially because Michigan does not have the secondary to keep up with USC. They just don't. They have one guy, Will Johnson, who is probably going to be a first round NFL talent. And then right now, they don't really have anything else that's all that strong. And again, offensively, they have maybe the run game. And the fact that we're talking about the run game being a maybe, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't really see a route for Michigan to win this thing unless they play like a completely different team than they have been. I don't think they're going to. I think USC is going to go on the road and beat Michigan. So, yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big one. I want to talk about Tennessee and Oklahoma. That's the other major matchup this week, right? So, one of the things I did on the episode earlier in the week, I dropped Nico Iamaleava out of my Heisman top four. I replaced him with Jalen Milroe. That's just because Jalen Milroe did more compared to the competition he faced up in Madison, Wisconsin. I think he's probably played more quality opponents to this point than Nico has. Yes, it was very impressive what that offense did against Kent State, but I'm not going to look at them lining up against Kent State and say, okay, yeah, this team's elite. However, I do think they are elite. I think Tennessee is an elite offense. I think they have probably the best running back in the country. They have a really solid offensive line. They have a guy who I think could end up as the best quarterback in the country. Defense has left a little bit to be desired thus far. However, we know the pieces are there. The big one being like James Pierce. Everyone's talking about, like, oh, well, production hasn't necessarily been there. It's still James Pierce. And eventually, he's going to make his impact. He's not just going to disappear off the face of the earth. And this is the game where James Pierce has to make that impact going on the road to Norman, Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma has not looked very good to start the year, but when I see them not playing well, I don't see it the same way as though I've seen Michigan. When I see Michigan not play well, I see position groups just not being good. I see lack of talent in the quarterback room. I see lack of talent on the perimeter. With Oklahoma, it's been a little bit different. It's been very talented quarterback, maybe missing some throws or making some poor decisions, maybe not being comfortable because he's young, right? I see, first off, they're a very banged up team, and they're supposedly getting some guys back this week. I think Nick Anderson is coming back, which that, if Tennessee secondary isn't all that strong, that's another guy that can really expose you. So we'll see how that goes. But they haven't been healthy, and they've been making mistakes. They've been growing as a team. And let's not act like playing Houston and Tulane are easy teams to play. They're not. They're both well coached with a lot of talent. I see. I would say like, oh, I mean, there's a lot of Power Five talent for Houston. Well, that's because they're a Power Five team now. But you get what I'm saying. And in Tulane, not a Power Five team yet. There's a lot of Power Five talent on that team, and especially coaching. John Summerall is that guy. So it's not like they've been playing nobodies and struggling. No, they've been playing pretty solid teams and they've been escaping, right? So they have to take a big step forward this week. They're going to have the home crowd on their side as their SEC opener. So now it's time to make a prediction. I hate narrowing things down to the quarterback, right? I just think between the two young quarterbacks, I think Nico is a little bit farther along. I think that offense is a little more suited to play not just to his strengths, but to the strengths of the team. Now, we haven't seen him do anything in a true road environment, nonetheless excel. And Oklahoma with Brent Venables as the head coach, they're gonna cause chaos. They're gonna wreak havoc. They also, I mean, you have probably the best off-ball linebacker in the country with Danny Stutzman. So um, anything could happen, and I think this is going to be a very close game. But by the slimmest of margins, I think I lean towards Tennessee, but would not bet on that game at all. If you're watching that game and it's the fourth quarter and Oklahoma's up by maybe 17, like I wouldn't be shocked by that. If Tennessee gets out to a huge lead early and they go off and maybe in the fourth it's 42-17, I wouldn't be necessarily shocked by that. I don't think it's going to be like that though. I think it's going to be played within the margins. Uh, And honestly, that does make me kind of want to lean Oklahoma just because of I think their defense inherently is a strength. But I'm trusting my gut here. I think Tennessee probably wins this game, but don't remotely put any money on this game. Just before I get out of here, I want to quickly highlight we've got Nebraska and Nebraska and Illinois. I've got Nebraska winning that game. Illinois is going to be a well coached team, and they're going to come in there with their heads on fire. But I think Nebraska. I think they're a different team this year. I think they have a massive quarterback edge. Just quickly give me Nebraska with now a ton of momentum going forward. Utah and Oklahoma State. That's honestly a toss-up. I have no idea what Oklahoma State is going based on the Arkansas game. So I don't know. Maybe they're good. And then Utah, they'll have Cam Rising. And honestly, I'm not going to bet against Cam Rising. So if you were pinning me back and making me pick, yeah, I'd probably pick Utah. They were my preseason Pac-12 or Big 12 championship prediction. So I guess give me Utah there. And then a weird one to watch out for: Vanderbilt, Missouri. Missouri got pushed against Boston College. Now Boston College seems like they're probably a pretty solid team, and I think they have a quarterback just based on his skill set that can create chaos. So um, Vandy has the same thing. I, as an Auburn fan, know all too well what all those New Mexico State guys can do. So Mizzou might have a quite a game in front of them. Is all I'm going to say about that. I would still take them to win, but don't necessarily bet against Vandy because they might surprise you. They just might surprise you. So that being said, just the quick predictions I wanted to run down. Oh, and I guess just for the sake of it, I'll talk about my team, Auburn, Arkansas. I'm actually very terrified of facing off against Arkansas, to be honest with you. I think they have a ton of top end talent that maybe we don't necessarily have. They have a freak athlete as their quarterback. Obviously, Taylor Green, we know about that. And like, sure, he's young. He made a lot of mistakes in the Oklahoma State game, but that was an offense that put up like well north of 600 yards. So, um, yeah, I am not very confident about that. So we'll just see how that goes. Pray for me because if Auburn loses to Arkansas, I'm not going to be very happy. I'll be a very sad guy on the show this upcoming week. Also, just quick preview. Obviously, Georgia on the bye week, so we're going to go ahead and kind of look forward to Georgia and Alabama. Just to give my statement on that. As of right now, I think my Alabama beating Georgia prediction maybe was a little bit better than some people are recognizing, and that's still how I feel about that game. But I'm very excited to see how that thing goes. So that being said, thank you for watching. I tried to get you guys in and out of here as quick as possible. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed any of the content here. I know the production quality is not all that great. I know the audio might not be the best in the world. Doing what we can, me and Matt, both college students, just trying to fit this into our chaotic schedules because we love talking sports, we love talking ball, we love talking racing. We want to talk to you guys, so please leave comments, especially interact with us. We are there. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching. This has been Name Still to Be Determined College Football Show. I've been Will. And I haven't stopped the video yet. That's always very awkward.